A woman arrived at his door with milk to spare. The widowed rancher faced a crying, starving baby. Before we begin, comment your country, so I know where this story is reaching. The storm had settled into a cold, steady drizzle when Emery Tate heard the soft knock. He'd been pacing his empty kitchen, the baby wailing in a rhythm that cut through bone. 3 weeks a widower, and already the house felt too big, too quiet, too sharp. When he opened the door, a woman stood there wrapped in a wool shawl, rain gathering at her lashes. Her name was Marwin. She didn't ask permission to step inside. She simply said she heard the child crying clear from a road. Emery didn't know what made him step back and let her enter. Maybe exhaustion, maybe instinct, maybe the hopelessness tightening in his chest. Mara moved straight toward the cradle, her expression calm, practiced. She lifted the baby with steady arms, humming as if she'd known him forever. The child softened in seconds, his cries slipping into tired breaths. Emery watched, stunned, as the woman who arrived from the rain coaxed peace from chaos like it was second nature. The lantern flickered on the table, casting long shadows that made the room feel like it was awakening from grief. Emery wondered who she really was, and why someone with that kind of gentleness wandered alone at night. Mara worked with a focus that didn't belong to strangers. She warmed a small tin of milk near the stove, testing drops on her wrist, adjusting the heat like she'd done it 1,000 times. Emery stood useless beside the table, hands clenched, feeling both grateful and embarrassed. The house had been sinking under grief for weeks, but with her inside, it felt as if a window had quietly opened. When the baby finally fed without choking or crying, Emery exhaled for the first time that night. Mara didn't smile, but her eyes softened. "He's hungry," she said, "but he's strong." Her voice held no judgment, only calm certainty. She wrapped the child in a steadier blanket than the one Emery had clumsily bundled earlier. Only then did he ask the question pressing at him. "Why were you out here this late?" Mara glanced toward the door, where rain tapped like fingers on wood. "Some roads you take, because staying put hurts more." She didn't explain further. She didn't need to. There was a history resting behind her silence. Something unfinished, something heavy. Emery felt a shift inside him, a warning or beginning. He couldn't tell which. But one truth settled hard. This woman had walked and carried more than warmth for a starving child. She carried her own ghosts. Morning crept in slow, gray, and cold. Emery found Mara already awake, rocking the baby with a gentle rhythm that made the whole room feel less hollow. She looked different in daylight, steadier, more deliberate, like someone who'd learned to rebuild herself piece by piece. Rowan, finally fed and rested, slept against her shoulder without a single whimper. Emery brewed weak coffee, unsure what to offer a woman who had already saved his night. "You don't owe me thanks," she said before he could speak. "A hungry child calls louder than pride." That line struck him harder than he expected. She spoke like someone who knew loss too well to ignore another person drowning in it. As she laid the baby back in the cradle, Emery noticed her hands, tired, skilled, and marked with faint scars that didn't match the soft tone in her voice. "You've cared for children before," he said. She hesitated, only a breath. "Many, though none of them mine to keep." The way she said it carried layers she wasn't ready to unpack. A quiet uncertainty settled between them. Emery wasn't sure if she planned to stay another hour, or vanished the moment the rain dried, but the house felt steadier with her in it, as if fate had sent someone who understood broken places. Curiosity settled like dust. Who was Marwin before this night, and what had she walked away from? By late morning, the sky cleared into a pale, brittle blue. Mara prepared to leave, adjusting her shawl, avoiding Emery's eyes the way people do when they've already decided to disappear. Rowan fussed when she stepped away from the cradle, a soft, restless sound that tugged at something deep inside Emery. "Mara," he said, voice rougher than he intended, "I don't know how to do this alone. Not anymore." She paused at the doorway, fingers tightening on the wood. "You're doing better than you think," she answered softly, though her shoulders betrayed a tension she tried to hide. He stepped closer. "Stay for a meal, at least. You haven't eaten." The smallest, hesitant exhale left her. Hunger wasn't the thing holding her back. Caution was. A woman wandering alone didn't trust easy. But something in this quiet house, something in the way Rowan reached for her every time she neared, worked on her like steady hands loosening an old knot. Mara nodded once. "One meal," she said. "Then I'll be on my way." But Emery wasn't convinced. There was a pull between them, not romantic, not urgent, just two wounded lives recognizing a familiar ache. As she set her shawl down again, Emery caught a glimpse of a small stitched patch inside, initials he didn't recognize. Someone she once belonged to, someone she'd left behind. It raised a real question. Was Mara running from danger or running toward hope? Emery cooked a simple meal, eggs, cornbread, and a pot of weak coffee. The kind of breakfast a man made when life had stripped things down to basics. Mara ate slowly, eyes lowered, as if each bite pulled her further into a place she wasn't sure she should stay. Rowan slept peacefully beside the stove, wrapped in a quilt too big for him. "You're safe here," Emery said quietly. Not a demand, not an invitation. Just truth. Mara didn't look up. "Safety isn't always a place," she murmured. "Sometimes it's the thing you have to leave behind." Her voice cracked on the last word before she steadied again. Emery recognized that tone, the sound of someone carrying a burden they never asked for. He wanted to ask what she was running from, but he didn't push. He had learned the hard way that some wounds needed room, not questions. Instead, he asked, "Where were you headed before you found my doorstep?" She hesitated, swallowing the answer before letting a sliver escape. "South, toward a family that once took me in, but I'm not sure they'd open their door anymore." The sadness in her eyes wasn't fear. It was a grief of someone who'd been turned away by fate, not people. Rowan stirred, reaching blindly toward Mara's voice. She lifted him without thinking, holding him with a tenderness that came from instinct, not obligation. Emery saw it clearly now. This woman didn't wander because she was lost. She wandered because she had too much heart and nowhere steady to place it. The real question pressed harder. What had pushed her back onto the road this time? Afternoon light drifted across the floor in slow-moving bands, settling on Mara as she laid Rowan back in his cradle. Emery watched her movements, careful, practiced, almost reverent, and felt something unfamiliar rising in him. Not attachment. Not yet. Just a faint relief of not being the only heartbeat trying to hold this house together. Mara stood near the window, arms folded, staring out at the open land, as if it might answer a question she hadn't spoken aloud. "I wasn't supposed to leave the place I came from," she finally said. "But staying there meant losing myself piece by piece." Her voice didn't tremble, but something inside it did. Emery didn't ask who hurt her. He understood too well that some stories weren't meant to be told in one sitting. Instead, he asked a quieter question. "Are they looking for you?" A long pause, then a nod, not to bring me home, just to blame me for walking away. The truth settled like dust in the still air. Mara wasn't simply traveling. She was avoiding hands that wanted ownership, not understanding. Emery's jaw tightened. He'd seen men like that. Men who treated lives as property. Men who believed a woman owed them obedience, gratitude, silence. Mara turned from the window. "I'll leave by sundown. I don't want trouble following me to your door." But Emery stepped forward, steady and unshaken. "Mara, trouble or not, you're not walking out of here hungry or alone." His voice was calm, not heroic, just a man choosing decency over fear. It made her look at him with a softness he hadn't earned but hoped to deserve. The question hung between them. As she walked back into the world alone, what waited for her on the road? Sundown pushed a copper glow through the house, warming the walls but not the air between them. Mara folded her shawl with slow, deliberate movements, the kind people make when they don't actually want to leave but believe they should. Rowan fussed a moment she stepped away, reaching out with small, searching hands. The sound cut through Emery like a blade made of memory and need. "You see," Emery said quietly, "he knows your voice better than mine some days." Mara smiled at that, the first real smile he'd seen from her, but it vanished just as quickly. "Emery, kindness can turn into attachment, and attachment can turn into trouble. I don't want to bring more hurt into your home." He shook his head. "This house was drowning in hurt long before you stepped inside. You breathe life back into it. She looked down, fingers trembling at the edges of her shawl. I'm not the woman people think I am, she whispered. I left a place where nothing I did was ever enough. A place where they expected me to give more than I had. When I finally walked out, they said I was ungrateful, dangerous, disloyal. Her voice thinned. And men like that don't let go easy. Emery didn't flinch. Men like that aren't welcome here. Mara met his eyes. There was fear there, yes, but also longing. She wanted rest, warmth, a place where her worth wasn't measured in obedience. She wanted safety she could trust. Rowan whimpered again, lifting his arms toward her. That tiny gesture decided what her doubts couldn't. Mara stepped back toward the cradle, her voice barely above breath. Maybe I can stay through the night. The real question settled like a slow heartbeat. If she stayed once, would she ever truly leave? Night settled slow and deep, the kind that wrapped the land in quiet honesty. Mara stayed, though she kept her boots by the door like a woman who wasn't ready to trust her own decisions. Emery stoked the stove, letting the room warm just enough for comfort. Rowan slept against Mara's chest, breathing in small, steady puffs. The kind of sleep a child only finds when held by someone who truly knows how to soothe. Emery sat across from her, elbows on his knees. You don't have to tell me everything, he said, but I need to know one thing. Are you in danger? Or are you just escaping people who think they own you? Mara's eyes lifted slowly. The second, she whispered. But people like that can turn into the first if you stand up to them. Her honesty tightened something inside him. This wasn't a woman running from law or scandal. She was running from control, from expectations that stripped her down until only obedience was left. Emery recognized that kind of hurt. Grief had taught him how easily a life could be taken apart. She looked toward the door, the outline of her boots barely visible in the dim light. If I stay too long, they'll come looking. They don't care about me, only what I provided. Emery's jaw flexed. Then let them look. They won't get past the fence. Mara closed her eyes, not in fear, but in relief so sharp it nearly broke her. You don't know what you're taking on, she murmured. I know what you've given this house, he replied. Peace, direction, a chance. For a long moment, neither spoke. The fire crackled, Rowan sighed, and Mara's shoulders lowered for the first time since she'd arrived, like she finally allowed herself to rest. But one truth lingered. If someone came searching, would she feel safe enough to stay? Morning arrived quiet as a held breath. Frost traced pale patterns across the window, the kind that made the world look gentler than it truly was. Mara moved to the kitchen with natural ease, warming milk, checking Rowan, folding small clothes with practiced fingers. She looked like she belonged there, not visiting, not passing through, but belonging, and that scared her more than the men she left behind. Emery watched her from the doorway. You slept, he said softly. Mara nodded, for the first time in months. It wasn't pride in her voice. It was surprise and a hint of guilt. She set the cup down, hesitating before she spoke again. If they come, they won't knock. They'll talk like they own the right to take me back. Emery stepped closer, steady and unshaken. No one owns you, and no one decides your life but you. Mara's breath trembled. I'm tired of running, Emery, but I'm terrified of stopping. He understood. Stopping meant risking hope. Stopping meant letting herself need something again. Stopping meant this place, this man, this child, could mean more than she intended. Rowan woke with a quiet fuss, and she lifted him instinctively, her body knowing the rhythm before her mind did. The baby settled instantly, curling into her like she was the safest thing in his small world. Emery watched that moment, a truth settling heavy in his chest. Mara, you're not a burden in this home. You're the reason it feels alive again. Her eyes softened, shining with an emotion she wasn't ready to name. For the first time, she didn't deny it. She didn't step back. She didn't fold into herself. Instead, she whispered, maybe I want to stop running. But the question hung between them, sharp as morning frost. Would the past allow her that choice? The day settled into a calm that felt almost unreal. No riders, no shouting, No shadows creeping along the fence line. Just the quiet hum of a home, rediscovering its heartbeat. Mara carried Rowan on her hip as Emery repaired a loose hinge on the barn door. The scene looked simple, ordinary, but to both of them, it was everything they'd been missing. When Emery finished, he walked toward her, brushing hay from his hands. "You don't have to decide today," he said. "But if you choose to stay, this place will shape itself around you, not against you." Mara looked across the land, the wide sky, the steady barn, the house that smelled of coffee and warm blankets instead of fear. "I thought I didn't deserve a home," she whispered. "But maybe I deserve a chance to build one." Rowan reached for her face, tiny fingers brushing her cheek. The touch cracked her open in a way nothing else had. Emery saw it. The surrender, the hope, the longing she kept buried beneath miles of hard road. She turned to him. "I want a life where I don't disappear," she said softly. "And here, I feel seen." Emery didn't promise perfection. He didn't offer grand vows. He simply nodded, a quiet agreement between two worn-out souls choosing to heal instead of hide. "Then stay," he said. "Stay as long as your heart tells you to." Mara stepped closer. Rowan nestled between them like a fragile new beginning. The wind carried the scent of warm earth. And for the first time in years, the future didn't feel like something to run from. It felt like something waiting to welcome her. Hope wasn't loud. It was steady. And that steadiness became the foundation of everything they built afterward. If you felt this story in your heart, don't leave quietly. Hit the like button and subscribe for more Frontier Tales. And tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from. Your support keeps these stories alive.